Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the class. Well, we have to start the subject now. We have to start the class now. Everybody ready? The title for the meeting today, Communication, Verbal and Non-Verbal. But just to remind you, in this meeting, we mostly speak about verbal communication. Non-verbal is another subject we will discuss next week. Communication through friend from Latin, communication. Communication. The meaning is making common. Making common. A fundamental concept of communication is the study of behavior. Once more, a fundamental concept of communication is the study of behavior, whether by human, animal, or machine, that act as a frame of reference for the concept of language. I'm sure you have pet at home. Again, I'm sure you have pet at home. You can communicate with your pet, whether it is a cat or a dog or a rabbit. That is your communication with animal. But machine, like we are using the recording. We record, then we send to somebody. That is a frame of reference for the concept of language. Communication refers to the transmission of information from a source to a receiver. Transmission, sending, using signaling system, using signal as a system. Back to the human, we know about linguistic studies. In linguistics, both source and receiver are human. No pet, no machine, but human. The system involved is a language and the idea of respond to feedback, a message, hold a central place. The central place is the language and the idea. You get it? Good. Communication is said to have taken place in the information received in the same as that sent. You have to understand it, that in communication, the message should be the same as the first sent. Okay, in practice, we have to allow for all kind of interfering factor. A lot of interfering factor. The noise, technically known as noise. noise, that is a special terminology, is different like a noise in rock and roll music, like a noise in demonstration, different. But this is special terminology in practicing language as an interfering factor, disturbing factor which reduce the efficiency of the transmission. You get, yeah? You get it, the meaning. Such as poor articulation or hearing, pure hearing or pure articulation. Unconscious personal association for word, unconscious personal association for word, that is noise. The study of human communication in all its modes is known as semiotic. We learn semiotic. I think, have you learned already semiotic in this institution? Not yet. Well, later you will study, maybe in the next semester. Although in principle, any of five sense, in principle, any of five sense, six, if telepathy is conceived, can be used as a medium of communication. Our five senses can be used as medium of communication. In practice, we only use three: tactile, visual, oral are implanted in both active, expressive, and passive. We cannot use the sense of taste in communication. We just use tactile, visual, and oral are implanted in both active and passive ways. Tactile communication involves touch. You know touch? As in shaking hand, you touch somebody's hand. Grasping someone's arm or shoulder. Stroking and punching as an example. And the manipulation of physical distance and body orientation in order to communicate indifference of or disagreement. You are using touch in disagreement or in agreement. Visual communication involves the use of facial expression, as in the smiling, winking an eyebrow, flashing, which communicate a wide range of emotion. Gesture and body posture of varying level of formality also used, such as waving, gesturing rudely, kneeling, bowing, blessing, like this. Often visual effects interact closely with speech. Visual communication interact together with speech. Movement of hand and head coincide with point of greatest spoken emphasis. If you emphasize something in your speech, you use a movement like this. And many convey particular nuances of meaning not easy to communicate in speech. Like this, like this, like this. Such as in drawing of inverted commas in the air to signal a special meaning. Yeah. The chief branch of communication study involve the oral mode also in the form of speech, and its systematic visual reflects in the form of writing. The chief branch of communication studies, the oral, you know, oral and oral by mouth, oral by ears, in the form of speech and writing. Any discussion? Non-verbal communication, by contrast, involve relatively little creativity. Later, we discuss non-verbal communication next week. You have to use your creativities to communicate. In language, it is commonplace to find new words being created and sentences varying in practically infinite complexity. Once more, in language, it is common to find new words being created. I'm teaching you, sometimes create new words and sentences varying in particular infinite complexity. Practically infinite complexity. A complex whole. In this respect, again, in this study, language differs markedly from the very limited set of facial expression, gesture, and body movement. Again, language differs from the very limited set of facial expression, gesture, and body movement. Differs mean your gesture, your expression will have different meaning with my expression, with my gesture. Why? Why? That is because we have or we follow a different culture. We begin with verbal communication. This is the verbal pattern of communication. Role and style of speaking. Role and style of speaking. You have to learn the role and styles of speaking. In language, there are tacit rules of speaking that, unlike rules of grammar or spelling, are not usually studied in a formal manner. You get the meaning? In language, there are tacit rules of speaking that, unlike rules of grammar or spelling, are not usually studied in a formal manner. You get it? Wherever you speak, there is a tacit rule. It means unspoken rule. Tacit means unspoken rule. This unspoken rule exists in every language, but differ significantly from culture to culture. Differ significantly from culture to culture. You get the meaning? Acquiring a second language demands more than learning new words and another system of grammar. It involves developing sensitivity to aspects of language that are usually not touched in language textbook. Involve developing sensitivity to aspects of language that are usually not taught in language textbook. Some important rules include permissible degrees of directness in speech and form of politeness used in daily conversation. Politeness are very important use in daily conversation. Once more, I have to stress that politeness in speech in daily conversation are very important. Speaking and refraining from speaking. Many rules, not only tacit rule. Governing speech patterns are learned in childhood, and people grow up thinking that everyone has the same rule for speaking. No. You have to understand your culture. Not the same way or the same rule for any speaking. People, once more, people unconsciously expect others to use the same modes of expression as they do. Unconsciously, you are unconsciously expect others to use the same mode. No, we are different again. We are different. Have you observed the way people from different culture use silence? Have you observed the ways people from different culture use silence? For instance, not all language are use silent and interruption in the same way. Once more, have you observed the way people from different culture use silence? Have you noticed that some people interrupt conversation more than other people? Just to remember you, just to remind you that all cultures do not have the same rule governing these areas of communication. Again, I have to stress that we are different. You and me are different in culture. In discussing culture, as we discussed on last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, on the introduction. Okay. Any discussion, we have to continue. For example, just example, you have to learn. Many Americans interpret silence in a conversation mean disapproval. Use silence for disapproval, disagreement, or unsuccessful communication. That is the way of American. They often try to fill silence by saying something even if they have nothing to say. They often try to fill silence by saying something even if they have nothing to say. On the other hand, Americans don't appreciate a person who dominates a conversation. Be careful with Americans. They don't appreciate person who dominate a conversation. When, for example, when you attend a seminar or webinar meeting by Zoom, you have to be polite. You have to follow the regulation, whether like or not. If you interrupt somebody speaking, you send your thing to the moderator, not directly send your voice loud or raise your hand high. No, you have to follow, because that is the culture. Knowing when to take turn in conversation in another language can sometimes cause difficulty. Knowing and not knowing when to take turn in conversation in another language can sometimes cause difficulty. You have to ask permission if you want to get the turn of speaking, not directly send your high voice, high intention voice. Should you wait until someone has finished a sentence or contribute a discussion, or can you break into the middle of someone's sentence? That is the way. You should wait until someone has finished. Interrupting someone who is speaking is considered rude in United States. Just to remind you, interrupting someone who is speaking is considered rude in United States. Even children are taught explicitly not to interrupt. So, you are educated people, you have to follow the rule, the tacit rule, also unspoken rule. Okay? Different ways of expressing common need. Individual in every culture have similar basic needs but express them differently. You still remember basic need? Little bit basic needs like housing, like diet or food. What else? Clothes. That is the three our basic need. But in every culture have different way to express it. In daily life, we all initiate conversation. We all speak first. Use formal and informal speech. Give praise. Express disagreement. Seek information and extend invitation. In daily life, we all initiate conversation. How we begin conversation? Your culture will influence. Japanese people begin their daily conversation, I mean conversation, not speaking, by at least by greeting, Sugang enjing, selamat pagi, good morning. Some of the verbal patterns we use are influenced by our culture. That is, some of our verbal patterns we use are influenced by our culture. My culture influenced my way of speaking. Directness in speech is common in the United States. Indirectness is the rule in part of Far East. Okay, although you are studying now English, American English, or British English, both English are different in culture. American use directness in speech, but the British English are more politeness there. these people from both of this part of the world would probably express criticism of others differently. Express criticism in every culture different, not the same, not expressing through your words. You have to learn how the Japanese culture express criticism. Solo culture and Yogyakarta culture are different. In part of the Middle East, host is expected to offer food several times, but in the United States, he may make one offer only one or twice. Okay? In part of the Middle East, a host is expected to offer food several times, but in the United States, he may offer only one or twice. That is, we are in Japanese invite somebody to take lunch or dinner, can say more than 3 times. Ayo makan. Next week, 10 minutes, ayo makan. Next week, ayo makan. But American, just twice, if you don't take the plate, you will be hungry along the night. Okay? You will be hungry along the night. The different mode of expression represent variation on the same time. Each language reflects and creates cultural attitude. Each has a unique way of expressing human need. We discussed already. Directness in American English we discussed already. Compare it with other language. American English strongly emphasizes directness in verbal interaction. Directness, frankly. Many expressions exemplify this tendency. Don't beat around the bush. Okay? Don't beat around the bush. Let's get down the business. Get to the point. Speak directly. All indicate impatience with avoiding issues. If a son is telling his father that he received a bad grade in school, his father might respond angrily with him or speak up. If you want to not speak or report to your father frankly, just out with it. Or shut up. Or speak up. Oral communication. Over 3/4 of our day is spent engaged in oral communication. You still remember oral communication? It means using our mouth, using our articulation, either face to face or over the telephone, etc. So the ability to use the spoken word skillfully in a variety of situations is essential. Not only essential, but also important. Okay. Over 3/4 of our day is spent engaged in oral communication, either face to face or over the telephone, etc. So the ability to use the spoken word skillfully in a variety of situations is essential. You may be brilliant and have wonderful ideas. You may be brilliant and have wonderful ideas, but if you make grammatical errors, swallow your words, have a phony accent or a harsh or unappealing voice, you will have difficulty persuading others to accept those wonderful ideas. Be careful. If you have wonderful ideas to convey, if you have wonderful ideas to communicate with others, especially with English language, be sure you have no grammatical error. We have not swallow your word, and so on. Okay? Be sure. All aspects of language are important. All aspects of language are important. If you speak cheerfully and respectfully to others, people will want to be near with you. But if you are negative, complain, rude, hard, and disturbing, surely people will go. Once more, I have to repeat, all aspects of language are important. If you speak cheerfully and respectfully to others, people will want to be near with you. Remember, want to be near with you. But if you are negative, complain, rude, hard, and disturbing, surely people will go. Don't like you, I'm sure. A good vocabularies and carefully chosen words are good and effective ways of getting your message understood. Chosen word, it means communicate as common word, not like a textbook word, difficult to understand. So, speech means communication, to use the common. Play safe and stick with more familiar one. That is, play safe and stick with the more familiar. Use the familiar word. However, be careful. However, once more, be careful of overusing word. You may use repetition. You may use repetition, but not repeat your word more than twice. It will be regarded as overusing word. And others will value you. Oral tradition. The tradition of passing on by word of mouth from person to person and especially from generation to generation. The tradition of passing one by word of mouth from person to person and especially from generation to generation. Oral art forms such as dalang, pantun berjawab are all the product of long established oral tradition. Oral tradition. Dalang. What is in English for dalang? You still remember the English for dalang? Dalang in English is narrator. Okay? Narrator. Be sure. That is also oral communication. Verbal communication. Any discussion? No discussion? Well, once more, any discussion? No discussion. Well, we have to close because the time is over. Hopefully, you get something useful for you in this meeting. Learn more and you will earn more. Okay? Bye-bye. Once more, we have to stop sharing the meeting. Bye-bye. See you. Goodbye.